Hello friends, welcome to video tutorial of embedded system. Here we are going to deal with debuggers of module 4. We will cover these points through this video. The first one, that is introduction on emulators and debuggers, and the second one, that is debugging techniques. There are in total 5 debugging techniques. So let's get started. Emulators. It is a piece of hardware that exactly behaves like the real microcontroller chip with all its integrated functionality. It is one of the most powerful debugging of all. A microcontroller's functions are emulated in real time and non-intrusively. All emulators contain three essential functions. They are: first, the emulator control logic that includes an emulation memory; second, the actual emulation device; and the third, a pin adapter that gives the emulator's target connector the same package and the pin out as the microcontroller to the emulator. We can also define emulator as a piece of hardware that looks like a processor, has memory like a processor, and executes instructions like a processor. But it is not a processor. The advantage is that we can probe points of the circuit that are not accessible inside a chip. It is a combination of hardware and software. Debuggers. I hope you all will be knowing what is debugging and what are debuggers. So, debugging in embedded application is the process of diagnosing the firmware execution, that is, we can say checking the firmware execution, monitoring the target processor's registers and memory while the firmware is running, and last, checking the signals from various buses of the embedded hardware. It can be classified as two: hardware debugging and firmware debugging. Hardware debugging. It deals with monitoring of various bus signals and checking the status lines of target hardware. Firmware debugging, we can also call it as software debugging. It deals with examining the firmware execution, the execution flow, changes to various CPU registers and status registers on execution of the firmware to ensure that the firmware is running as per the design. So now, why is debugging required? Firmware debugging is performed to figure out the bug or the error in the firmware which creates the unexpected behavior. Now let's get started with the techniques, the debugging techniques. So first, it is the incremental EEPROM burning technique. It is one of the most primitive technique. As we all know, normally we run the whole entire code as a whole, then cross compile it and burn it into the chip. But over here, the code is separated into different functional code units, then the code is burned into EEPROM in incremental order. Then the code corresponding to all functionalities are separated and then cross-compiled and burned into the chip one by one. Here, there is an LED or buzzer provided to indicate correct functioning. If there is any mistake while running or cross-compiling the functionalities, the LED will glow or the buzzer will ring. We need to repeat this until all functionalities are covered. If any functionality is not giving expected result as we want, then we need to fix it by modifying the code, and then only we can go for the next step. After you found all functionalities working, we will just compile the entire functionalities, recompile it, and then burn the code for total system functioning. It is a time consuming process, but it's a one time process. Here, there is no debugging, but observing the status of firmware as debug method. Even though you need to spend some additional time on this approach, you will never lose or will never mess up with debugging the code. We will be able to find out at least on which point of firmware execution the issue is arising. It is adopted in small, simple system developments and in product development where time is not a big constraint. The next technique, that is inline breakpoint based firmware debugging. It is another primitive method of firmware debugging. Here, an inline debug code is inserted within the firmware at a point where we want to ensure correct execution. The debug code used here is printf function. Cross-compile the source code with the debug codes embedded within it. Then burn the corresponding hex file into the EEPROM. Then we will view debug code generated data on the hyperterminal. Hyperterminal, it is a communication facility available with the Windows, coming under the communication section of StartMenu. Over there, we need to do 3 steps. First one, configure the serial communication setting of the hyperterminal connection to the same as that of serial communication setting configured in the firmware. Those can be the baud rate, polarity, stop bit or the flow control. Next step, connect target board's serial port, that is communication port COM, to development PC's COM port using RS232 cable. Then we'll just power up the target board. Here, depending on the execution flow and the inline debug codes inserted in the firmware, you can view the debug information on the hyperterminal. If the firmware is error-free and the execution occurs properly, you will get all debug messages on the hyperterminal. Next one, that is monitor program based firmware debugging. Here, monitor program acts as supervisor. It is a program that is developed by the user and acts like the supervisor. It controls the downloading of user code into code memory, inspect and modifies register or memory locations, allow single stepping of source code, etc. It always listens to serial port of target device and according to command received, it performs command specific actions. The first step in any monitor program development is determining a set of commands for performing various operations like firmware downloading, memory register, inspection or modification, single stepping, etc. Once the commands for each operation is fixed, write the code for performing the actions corresponding to these commands. The commands may be received through any of the external interface of the target processor. Example, we can say the RS232C serial interface or parallel interface or the USB also. The monitor program should query this interface to get commands or should handle the command reception if the data reception is implemented through interrupts. On receiving a command, examine it and perform the action corresponding to it. The entire code handling the command reception and corresponding action implementation is known as the monitor program. After the successful completion of the monitor program development, it is compiled and burned into the flash memory or ROM of the target board. The code memory containing the monitor program is known as the monitor ROM. We can say some additional points, that is the monitor program contains the following set of minimal features. Some of the features are: it is a single step program execution, set breakup points in firmware execution. It can also examine and modify processor registers and working memory, that is RAM. And there are many more such features. The monitor program usually resides at the reset vector of the target processor. The reset vector is the code memory, that is 000H. The actual code memory is downloaded into a RAM chip which is interfaced to the processor in the von Neumann architectural model. The von Neumann architectural model is achieved by ANDing the PSEN and RD signals of the target processor in the case of 8051 and then connecting the output of AND gate to the output enable RD pin of RAM chip. WR signal of the target processor is interfaced to the WR signal of the von Neumann RAM. An address decoder circuit maps the address range allocated to the monitor ROM and activate the chip select, that is CS, of the ROM if the address is within the range specified for the monitor ROM. A user program is normally loaded at location O×4000 or 0×8000. The address decoder circuit ensures the enabling of the RAM chip, that is the CS, when the address range is outside that allocated to the ROM monitor. The major drawbacks of monitor-based debugging system are: the first one, the entire memory map is converted into a von Neumann model and it is shared between the monitor ROM, monitor program data memory, monitor program base, trace buffer, user written firmware and external user memory. For 8037, the original Harvard architecture supports 64K code memory and 64K external data memory. So the total is 128K memory map. Going for a monitor-based debugging shrinks the total available memory to 64K von Neumann memory, and it needs to accommodate all kinds of memory requirement. That is one of the drawbacks, that it shrinks the memory. The second one is one serial port of the target processor becomes dedicated for the monitor application and cannot be used for any other device interfacing. So now these are the drawbacks of the monitor program. Now let's go to the next technique, that is the in-circuit emulator based firmware debugging. It contains four functional units. They are emulation device, emulation memory, emulator control logic and device adapters. Emulation device. It is actually a replica of target CPU. It can be a standard chip or a programmable logic device, that is PLD. Next is the emulation memory. Emulation memory, it is a replacement for EEPROM target device. It is the RAM incorporated in the emulator device. It acts as trace buffer. Trace buffer is a memory pool holding the instructions executed or registers modified or related data by the processor while debugging. Some of the common features of trace buffer memory and trace buffer data viewing are: the trace buffer records cache bus cycle in frames. Trace data can be viewed in the debugger application as assembly or source code. Trace buffering can be done on the basis of a trace trigger, that is event. Trace buffer can also record signals from target board other than CPU signals. Trace data is a very useful information in firmware debugging. The next functionality or the functional unit we can see, that is the device adapter. It acts as an interface between the target board and emulator POD. Normally, pin-to-pin compatible sockets which can be inserted or plugged into the target board for routing the various signals from the pins assigned for the target processor. The device adapter is usually connected to the emulator POD using ribbon cables. The adapter type varies depending on the target processor chip package. The above mentioned emulators are almost dedicated ones, meaning they are built for emulating a specific target processor and have little or less support for emulating the derivatives of the target processor for which the emulator is built. This type of emulators usually combines the entire emulation control logic and emulation device in a single board. They are known as debug board modules. DBM, that is debug mode modules. An alternative method of emulator design supports emulation of a variety of target processors. Here the emulator hardware is partitioned into two. The first one, that is base terminal, and the second one, that is a probe card. The base terminal contains all the emulator hardware and emulation control logic except the chip, that is the emulation chip, that is target board CPU's replica. The base terminal is connected to the development PC for establishing communication with the debug application. The emulation chip is mounted on a separate PCB and it is connected to the base terminal through a ribbon cable. The probe card board contains the device adapter sockets to plug the board into the target development board. The board containing the emulation chip is known as a probe card. For emulating different target CPUs, the probe card will be different and the base terminal remains the same. Next, that is the last one, that is on-chip firmware debugging. Today, almost all processors incorporate built-in debug modules called on-chip debug OCD support. Though OCD adds silicon complexity and cost factor, from a developer's perspective, it is a very good feature supporting fast and efficient firmware debugging. The on-chip debug facilities integrated to the processor or controller are chip vendor dependent, and most of them are proprietary technologies like background debug mode. Some vendors add on chip software debug support through JTAG, that is Joint Test Action Group port. Processors or controllers with OCD support incorporate a dedicated debug module to the existing architecture. Usually the on-chip debugger provides the means to set simple breakpoints, query the internal state of the chip, and single step through code. OCD module implements dedicated registers for controlling debugging. An on-chip debugger can be enabled by setting the OCD enable bit. BDM and JTAG are the two commonly used interfaces to communicate between the debug application running on development PC and OCD module of target CPU. Background debug mode, that is BDM interface, is a proprietary on-chip debug solution for Motorola. BDM defines the communication interface between the chip resident debug core and host PC where the BDM compatible remote debugger is running. The BDM makes use of 10 or 26 pin connector to connect to the target board. Serial data in. There are few ports that are one, that is the serial data in, that is DSI, serial data out, that is DSO, and serial clock, that is DSLR, are the three major signal lines used in BDM. So, first one, that is DSI. It actually sends the debug commands serially to the target processor from remote debugger application. DSO, it is the response. We can say it acts as an acknowledgement. So here DSO, that sends the debug response to the debugger application from the processor. Over here, synchronization of a serial transmission is done by the serial clock, that is DSCLK, generated by the debugger application. Debugging is controlled by BDM specific debug commands. The debug commands are usually 17-bit wide, in which 16 bits are used for representing the command and the 1 bit that is remaining is bit for status or control. Over here, chips with JTAG debug interface contain a built-in JTAG port for communicating with the remote debugger application. The signal lines of JTAG protocol are explained below. There are in total 5 signal lines. The first one, that is test data in, we can say it as TDI. It is used for sending debug commands serially from a remote debugger application to the target processor. Test data out. It is actually transmit debug response to the remote debugger from the target CPU. It acts like a response or an acknowledgement given back. Test clock, that is TCK, synchronizes the serial data transfer. And fourth one, that is test mode select, TMS, it sets the mode of testing, which mode is to be kept for testing. And the last one, that is test reset, TRST, it is an optional signal line used for resetting the target CPU. So with this we complete our debuggers topic. So here is what we learned. As we all know, first of all, we learned what are emulators and debuggers in an embedded system. Then we also learned about the 5 different debugging techniques, that are the incremental EEPROM technique, inline breakpoint based firmware debugging, monitor program based firmware debugging, in-circuit emulator based firmware debugging, and the last one, that is on-chip firmware debug. Thank you.